The aliens found humans on a warm spring day in 2089. Captain John Mitchell stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon, his hands shaking as the strange ship appeared in Earth's orbit. The crew watched in silence as the alien vessel, shaped like a perfect sphere with a surface that shifted colors like oil on water, moved closer. "Open all channels," John ordered, his voice firm despite his racing heart. "This is Captain John Mitchell of Earth. We come in peace and friendship." The reply came not as words but as a sound that would haunt humanity for centuries to come. It was laughter, or what the translation systems would later identify as laughter, a series of high-pitched tones that made several crew members cover their ears. That was how humanity met the collective, an alliance of 17 advanced alien species who had been watching Earth for decades. They had waited until humans developed basic space travel before making contact. Not out of respect or protocol, but because they found it more amusing that way. The aliens called themselves the Collective, not because they shared a hive mind, but because they shared a single opinion about humans. We were entertaining pets, nothing more. 5 years after first contact, Earth was no longer the same. Alien technology appeared everywhere, but always with limitations. The Collective would give humans faster ships, but not the knowledge to build them. They would cure some diseases, but not all. They would answer some questions, but laugh at others. Dr. Amanda Kelly sat in her small office at the United Nations Xenolinguistics Department, listening to recordings of alien conversations. After 10 years of study, she had become the leading expert on how the various species of the Collective communicated. More importantly, she understood what they really thought about humans. "Play it again," she told her computer. The screen showed 2 Vrolic, crystalline beings whose bodies sparkled under the office lights. Their language sounded like wind chimes in a storm, but the translation appeared as text at the bottom of the screen. The humans asked for access to the gravity control systems again. One Vrolic said. "Did you show them the fake diagrams?" The other asked. "Yes." They believed everything. Their engineer even thanked me for the valuable knowledge. I nearly shattered from amusement. Amanda turned off the recording and looked out her window at New York City. Alien architecture now stood beside human buildings, sleek towers of impossible materials that seemed to defy gravity. Beautiful, but a constant reminder of how little the Collective shared their real knowledge. In Geneva, Commander Eric Donovan of the Earth Defense Force sat across from 3 alien representatives in a large meeting room. The aliens, a Vrolic, a gaseous nebula contained in a floating orb, and a Taraki with its hard exoskeleton, had just denied his request for defensive technology again. "We simply feel your species is not ready for such responsibility," the IC Vrolic said, its crystal body vibrating slightly in what Eric had learned was their version of a condescending smile. "The last time we provided weapons technology to a developing species," the nebula added, its voice transmitted through its containment orb, "they accidentally destroyed one of their own moons. We wouldn't want that to happen to your lovely planet." Eric kept his face neutral. "Of course, I understand your concerns." He did not mention that his team had found historical records in the Collective's public database that showed no such incident had ever occurred. The aliens didn't even try to make believable lies anymore. As Eric left the meeting, his deputy Lieutenant Grace Winters fell into step beside him. Her face showed the same controlled anger he felt. "Another no, sir?" she asked quietly. "Another no," he confirmed. "But they did offer to upgrade our weather prediction systems. Apparently they find it amusing that we still get surprised by storms." Grace's hands tightened into fists. "My grandfather was told the same thing 30 years ago. Nothing changes." "Not yet," Eric said, his voice so low Grace barely heard him. Later that night, Eric sat alone in his office, the lights dimmed. On his screen was a report about the newest gift from the Collective, a medical treatment that supposedly helped humans live longer. The report, compiled by doctors who still believed in human independence, suggested the treatment might have hidden effects. It seemed to make people more agreeable, less likely to question alien authority. Eric added the report to his private files. a collection of evidence that painted a disturbing picture. The mockery wasn't just about alien superiority. It was about control. A soft knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Grace entered carrying a small device. "You need to see this, sir," she said, placing the device on his desk. It projected a hologram of Earth with several locations marked in red. "These are the new cultural centers the Vrolik want to build next year." Eric studied the map and saw the pattern immediately. "They're all near military installations or government centers," Grace nodded. "And the building plans show unusual power requirements and shielding. These aren't cultural centers. They're monitoring stations," Eric finished. "Or worse." 300 years passed this way. Generations of humans grew up knowing their place in the galaxy, as servants, as entertainment, as lesser beings. Some accepted this role completely, forming communities that worshipped the aliens and adopted their customs. They called themselves progressives, believing that by embracing alien ways humans might eventually earn respect. Others, like the terrestrial dignity movement, fought to preserve human culture and independence. They used as little alien technology as possible and encouraged people to remember Earth's history and achievements. The aliens found them quaint and occasionally annoying, but not threatening. Most people simply lived their lives somewhere in the middle, accepting alien technology and jobs while trying to maintain some sense of human identity. They worked as cleaners on alien ships, as miners on distant asteroids, as assistants who were never promoted. The pay was good, but the cost to human pride was high. And all the while, the laughter continued. The Vrolik would vibrate at frequencies. That translated as mockery when humans tried to join scientific discussions. The nebula would form cloud patterns mimicking human failures. The Taraki would flex their exoskeletons in what Dr. Kelly identified as their version of laughter whenever humans proposed new ideas. But in his office in Geneva, now lined with 3 centuries of collected evidence, Commander Eric Donovan, a title passed down through a carefully selected line of leaders, watched and waited. Each insult was recorded. Each lie was documented. Each human who disappeared after asking too many questions was remembered. 300 years is long enough, he told Grace Winters, the latest to hold her position. They watched footage of Earth's ambassador being sprayed with a chemical that caused temporary paralysis, much to the amusement of the collective council. It's time humanity showed them what we're really capable of. Grace nodded, her eyes reflecting the same cold determination seen in her predecessors. "The pieces are in place, sir. We just need the signal." Outside, the sun set on another day of humiliation for humanity. But in the growing darkness, something was changing. A plan 3 centuries in the making was about to unfold. The laughter that had echoed across the galaxy for so long was about to die in the aliens' throats. The time for humanity to snap had finally arrived. Linda Wright cleaned the private rooms of important aliens on Outpost Epsilon 9. It was not a job most people would want. But Linda saw things others did not. The aliens never worried about what they said or left out when a human cleaner was in the room. To them, Linda was like a piece of furniture not worth noticing. On a day that seemed like any other, Linda moved her cleaning cart into the quarters of a Vrolik diplomat. The crystalline alien had left in a hurry for an emergency meeting, leaving data crystals scattered across a table. As Linda carefully cleaned around them, she noticed one had fallen behind a console. She picked it up, meaning to put it back with the others. But something about this crystal was different. It had red markings instead of the usual blue. Linda had been a cleaner for 12 years. She knew this was important. Instead of returning it, she slipped the crystal into her pocket. That night, in her small room in the human workers section, she wrapped the crystal in a piece of cloth and hid it in her few belongings. 3 days later, her rotation ended, and she returned to Earth for her rest period. Linda did not go home. Instead, she took a transport to Geneva, to a building that looked like a normal government office. There, she asked to see Commander Donovan. The guards were suspicious until she whispered a code phrase that her grandfather had taught her, passed down through their family for generations. "I found something. Linda told Commander Donovan when they were alone in his secure office. She placed the crystal on his desk. I think it's important. Eric studied the crystal without touching it. Where did you get this? Rolik Diplomats. Quarters. It fell behind a console. It has red markings, not blue. I've never seen that before. Eric nodded and carefully placed the crystal in a scanning device. You did the right thing, Linda. Go home now. Take a different route. Don't tell anyone about this. 2 days later, Dr. Sean Foster walked through the halls of the Mars research facility where he worked. He was one of the few humans allowed to do actual science in a collective facility, though his alien supervisors always treated his work as basic and unimportant. Sean's job was to test the medical treatments the aliens gave to humans. The collective claimed these treatments helped humans live longer and stay healthier. Sean had always believed this was true, until today. In his lab, Sean stared at his test results again. He had been testing the newest treatment, meant to help human brain function, but his results showed something very different. The compound didn't improve brain function. It changed it. It made certain parts of the brain less active, specifically the parts connected to aggression, creativity, and group loyalty. This isn't medicine, Sean whispered to himself. It's control. He needed to tell someone, but he couldn't trust the communication systems in the facility. Everything was monitored by the collective. Instead, he saved his findings on a secure drive and requested personal leave for a family emergency. His Taraki supervisor approved it without interest. 3 days later, Sean sat across from Commander Donovan in the same office where Linda had delivered her crystal. Lieutenant Grace Winters stood by the door, making sure no one interrupted. I've been studying their medical treatments for years, Sean explained, but I never saw the pattern until now. Each new treatment targets different parts of the brain. Together, they're creating humans who are easier to control, less aggressive, less innovative, less likely to work together against the aliens. Eric nodded, his face grim. That matches what we found on the crystal Linda Wright brought us. Dr. Kelly managed to decode it. He pressed a button, and Dr. Amanda Kelly joined them via a secure holographic link. The crystal contains details of something called Project Genesis, Amanda explained. It's a collective plan to terraform habitable planets. There's a list of 23 worlds previously occupied by what they call unviable species. She paused. Earth is on their list. We're scheduled for renewal within 50 years. They plan to move humans to a small moon where we can continue our quaint existence. Sean's face paled. They're not just mocking us. They're planning to replace us. Yes, Eric said. And now we know why they've been giving us limited technology and medical treatments. They're keeping us docile until they're ready to take our world. For the next week, Linda, Sean, and Amanda stayed in a secure facility beneath Geneva. They worked with Eric, Grace, and a small team of trusted humans to understand everything on the crystal and in Sean's research. They learned the collective had been lying to humanity for centuries. The aliens had studied Earth's history and decided humans were too violent and unpredictable to join the galactic community as equals. Instead of destroying humanity outright, they chose to slowly change us, weakening our natural traits while making us believe we were simply inferior. But they made a mistake, Eric told the gathered team. They studied our wars and violence but missed something important. Humans are most innovative when we're backed into a corner, when we have no choice but to fight back. In the facility's main room, Eric showed them a plan that had been developing in secret for generations. Operation Trojan, it was called. A way for humanity to fight back against a technologically superior force. For years, we've been collecting their scraps of technology, the pieces they thought were safe to give us, Eric explained. What they don't know is that humans in key positions have been studying and improving these technologies in ways the collective never imagined. The plan hinged on the fact that the aliens had grown so confident in their superiority that they no longer saw humans as a threat. They let humans clean their ships, work in their facilities, and handle their waste because they believed we were too simple to understand their technology or plans. This gives us access, Grace pointed out. Humans are everywhere in collective space doing jobs the aliens think are beneath them. But we can't fight them directly, Sean argued. Even with what we've learned, their technology is still far beyond ours. We don't need to fight them directly, Eric said with a small smile. We just need to make them stop laughing. The first step was to counter the effects of the collective's drugs. Using Sean's research, they developed a treatment that would reverse the brain suppression without the aliens noticing. They needed a way to distribute it widely but secretly. Linda suggested using the water systems. Humans managed water purification on most collective facilities because the aliens considered it menial work. They could introduce the counteragent into water used only by humans without raising suspicion. Amanda's linguistic expertise would be vital too. She had discovered patterns in collective communications that revealed weaknesses in their security systems. Humans who seemed to be submissively following orders could actually be gathering intelligence and placing small devices that would later allow access to collective networks. This will take time, Eric warned. We need to move carefully. The collective still has overwhelming force. If they suspect what we're doing, they'll destroy us without hesitation. How long? Sean asked. 5 years to prepare, Eric answered. 5 years of continuing to clean their ships, mine their asteroids, and laugh at their jokes while we get ready. Then, when they least expect it, humanity will finally show the galaxy what we're truly capable of. As the team left the meeting, to begin their work, Linda stopped beside Eric. My grandfather told me stories about humans fighting back someday. I never really believed him. I never thought I'd be part of it. Eric nodded. For 300 years they've laughed at us. In 5 years they'll learn that humanity has limits. And they've finally pushed us too far. 5 years passed. On the surface, nothing changed. Humans still cleaned alien ships, mined their asteroids, and served their needs. The collective still laughed at human attempts to join scientific discussions. Earth's ambassadors still suffered, small humiliations at every meeting. But beneath this familiar pattern, Operation Trojan moved forward day by day. Dr. Olivia Martinez worked in a small lab in Arizona that the collective believed was studying desert plants. In reality, she led a team developing technology to hide energy signatures from alien detection systems. The aliens had given humans basic scanning equipment years ago, thinking it harmless. They never imagined humans would reverse engineer it and find its weaknesses. The shielding works, Olivia told Commander Eric Donovan during a secure transmission. We tested it against a Vrolik scanner yesterday. It didn't detect anything. Eric nodded, his face showing the first signs of hope in years. How soon can we implement it on the shipyards? 2 months for the moon base, 3 for the asteroid facilities. This was crucial information. Hidden shipyards had been established on the far side of the moon and in the asteroid belt. There, human engineers worked day and night, adapting and improving stolen collective designs. Keith Daniels led the team working on the most important technology, the phantom drives. 20 years earlier, Keith had proposed a new theory of space travel to the collective. The aliens had laughed, calling his ideas theoretically unsound. Now, Keith was proving them wrong. The test ship disappeared from all scanning systems for exactly 3 minutes, Keith reported to Eric from his lab deep inside the asteroid belt. When it reappeared, it was 15 million miles away. Eric allowed himself a small smile. Can they track it while it's using the drive? No, Keith said firmly. To their systems, the ship simply ceases to exist, then reappears somewhere else. We can move our entire fleet right past their defensive lines, and they won't see us coming. Meanwhile, humans in service positions throughout collective space began the most dangerous part of Operation Trojan, intelligence gathering. Every time an alien made a joke at human expense, it became an opportunity to access restricted areas or place small devices that would later serve as network access points. Paul Ramirez worked as a janitor aboard the collective's primary diplomatic vessel, the Grand Harmony. For 3 years, he memorized every corridor, every security measure, every crew rotation. He placed tiny devices no larger than dust particles in air vents near important meeting rooms. These devices recorded conversations and sent the data. to hidden receivers. The hardest part is looking stupid, Paul told Lieutenant Grace Winters during his monthly report. I have to act like I don't understand when they insult me to my face. I have to pretend I don't notice when they talk about important things in front of me. Grace nodded in understanding. It won't be much longer. Just keep gathering information. It's saving lives. On Earth, Admiral Natalie Chen, formerly Commander Donovan's strategic analyst, now led the training of the first true human defense force. In remote locations using the energy shielding technology, men and women prepared for the day humanity would fight back. The most dangerous role in Operation Trojan belonged to Dr. Heather Phillips. As Earth's new representative to the Collective Council, she had to appear increasingly submissive while gathering critical information about the aliens' defenses and weaknesses. The Vrolik High Chancellor made a joke today about human reproduction, Heather reported to Eric during a secure call. I laughed and acted embarrassed, exactly as expected. While everyone was distracted, I placed the final access node near their main communication array. Eric nodded, his face serious. You've done. Well, Heather, this is the last piece we needed. In 3 months, we move to the final phase. Will it work? Heather asked, the strain of her role showing on her face. It has to, Eric replied simply. The final months of preparation were the most intense. The counter-agent to the collectives, drugs had been distributed through water supplies to human communities throughout Earth, and on stations across the solar system. People reported feeling more clear-headed, more determined. Innovation flourished in secret labs. The human spirit, suppressed for centuries, began to reawaken. In the hidden shipyards, the fleet was almost ready. 117 vessels, from small tactical ships to the massive flagship Liberty, waited for the signal. Each was equipped with phantom drives and weapons based on collective designs, with improvements the aliens had never considered. The night before Operation Trojan was set to begin, Eric sat alone in his office. After 5 years of preparation, after 300 years of humiliation, humanity was ready to show its true strength. The responsibility weighed heavily on him. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Grace entered, holding a small box. The final reports are in, she said. All teams are in position, all ships are ready. The command codes have been distributed. She placed the box on his desk. This is for you. Eric opened it and found a simple pin, a small silver horse. The symbol of Operation Trojan. Admiral Chen sent it, Grace explained. She says it's time to deliver our gift to the collective. Eric pinned it to his uniform. Send the final alert. Operation Trojan activates tomorrow at Oro 300 Universal Time. Across the solar system and beyond, humans receive the coded message. In their quarters on alien ships, in mining facilities on distant moons, in cleaning closets and engine rooms and diplomatic offices, they prepared for the moment everything would change. On the Grand Harmony, Paul Ramirez finished his cleaning duties and returned to his small room. There he opened a hidden compartment in his cleaning cart and removed a package he had carried aboard piece by piece over the past year. Inside was a uniform and a weapon, not the crude ones the collective allowed humans to have, but an advanced, design based on stolen technology. In her quarters on the collective central station, Heather checked the small device hidden in her diplomatic badge. At exactly 0300, it would activate, temporarily disabling communications across all collective networks. She rehearsed what she would say when she walked into the emergency session that would surely follow. On the moon's far side, Admiral Chen inspected the flagship Liberty one final time. The massive vessel was a testament to human ingenuity, built in secret, more advanced than anything the collective could imagine humans creating. Is everything ready? She asked Keith Daniels, who had come aboard to make final adjustments to the Phantom Drive. Yes, Admiral, Keith replied. When we activate the drive, we'll appear directly above the central station. They won't have time to react. Admiral Chen nodded and addressed the crew assembled in the main bay. For 3 centuries they have mocked us, exploited us, and planned our extinction. Tomorrow the laughter stops. Tomorrow we show them the true strength of humanity." The crew stood tall, their faces showing the same determination seen in humans across the stars. The time for servitude was ending. The time for humanity to reveal its true capabilities had come. As the hours counted down to 0300, a sense of anticipation spread through human communities everywhere. The moment they had waited for, had prepared for, was almost here. The collective had laughed at humanity for centuries. Tomorrow they would finally learn their mistake. The day of May 17, 2413 began like any other across collective space. Humans performed their assigned tasks, appeared appropriately humble, and pretended not to notice the continuing jokes at their expense. The aliens went about their business, secure in their superiority. At exactly 0300 Universal Time, everything changed. Paul Ramirez was cleaning the main corridor of the Grand Harmony when his watch beeped softly. He straightened up, left his cleaning cart, and walked calmly to a small maintenance room. There, he changed into the uniform he had hidden and checked his weapon. Years of pretending to be a simple janitor were over. Across the massive ship, other humans, cooks, technicians, assistants, did the same. They had been carefully placed in their positions over the past 5 years, each with a specific role to play. At the same moment, on the collective central station, Heather Phillips touched the small device in her diplomatic badge. Throughout the station, alien communication systems went dark. Alarms began to sound as the collective realized something was wrong. Heather walked quickly toward the council chamber, where she knew an emergency session would soon begin. 4 humans who had posed as her assistants for months fell into step beside her. They no longer looked servile. They moved with purpose, with confidence. In orbit around key collective installations throughout the galaxy, human ships appeared suddenly, as if from nowhere. The phantom drives had worked perfectly. 117 vessels, from small tactical ships to the massive flagship Liberty, took up positions before the aliens even knew they were under attack. Admiral Natalie Chen stood on the bridge of the Liberty as it materialized above the central station. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her communications officer said. "No collective vessels have responded yet. They don't know what's happening." "Open all channels," Natalie ordered. "It's time to deliver our message." In the collective council chamber, alien representatives gathered in confusion. The 17 species of the collective were not used to emergencies. They had been the dominant power in the galaxy for so long that the concept of a serious threat was almost foreign to them. The doors opened and Heather Phillips walked in. The aliens expected to see a frightened human seeking guidance. Instead, they saw a woman walking with her head high, flanked not by nervous assistants, but by armed soldiers. Before any of the aliens could speak, a holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber. Admiral Chen looked at the assembled representatives with cold determination. "For 3 centuries you have mocked us, exploited us, and planned our extinction," she stated clearly. "That ends today. The vessels currently surrounding your stations and homeworlds are equipped with weapons based on your own designs, with several improvements you deemed beyond human capability." The Vrolic High Chancellor's crystalline body vibrated in what might have been alarm. "This is absurd. Humans do not possess such technology." "Look at your screens," Heather suggested calmly. "Oh wait, you can't. We've taken control of your systems." As if to prove her point, the lights in the chamber flickered, then came back on with a slightly different hue, the lighting humans preferred rather than the harsh glare the aliens used. Across collective space, the scene played out with precision. Human workers who had appeared docile for generations revealed themselves as trained operatives. Critical systems fell under human control. The few collective ships that attempted to resist discovered how effective the phantom drives were in combat. The human vessels could appear and disappear faster than collective targeting systems could track. On the Grand Harmony, Paul led a team directly to the bridge. The alien crew stared in shock as humans they had ordered around for years now entered, with weapons drawn. "The ship is now under human control," Paul announced. "No one will be harmed if you cooperate." The Taraki captain's exoskeleton flexed in what might have been disbelief. "You clean our waste disposal units. How could you possibly understand how to operate this vessel?" Paul smiled. "I have degrees in xenoengineering and advanced propulsion systems. I've been studying your technology while you thought I was too stupid to understand it. Now, step away from the controls." Within 6 hours, the unthinkable had happened. The 17 species of the mighty collective had been neutralized as a threat, with minimal casualties on either side. Human restraint surprised the aliens almost as much as the sudden display of technological prowess. In the council chamber, Admiral Chen's hologram addressed the stunned representatives. "We could have responded to your centuries of cruelty with destruction. Instead, we offer you the opportunity to truly understand what humans are." She listed humanity's terms: equal status in a new galactic organization, reparations for centuries of exploitation, and the immediate cessation of Project Genesis. Most importantly, the cognitive suppression program would be dismantled, and all information about collective technology would be shared freely. "You are no longer our masters," Admiral Chen concluded. "You are no longer the audience laughing at our expense. You are our equals, neither more nor less, and you will never again mistake our patience for weakness." On Earth, crowds gathered around public screens as news of Operation Trojan spread. People who had lived their entire lives believing humans were inferior to aliens watched in amazement as the power dynamic shifted. In Geneva, Eric Donovan watched the broadcasts with Grace beside him. After 5 years of preparation, after centuries of humiliation, humanity had finally shown its true strength. "Did we do the right thing?" Grace asked quietly. Eric considered the question. "We did the necessary thing. They weren't going to change. They were going to replace us on our own world." Grace nodded, her expression thoughtful. "What happens now?" "Now comes the hard part," Eric replied. "We've shown we can fight. Now we need to show we can build something better than what came before." On the central station, Heather watched as the alien representatives signed the agreement that would reshape the galaxy. Some did so grudgingly, their movements stiff with shock and anger. Others seemed almost relieved, as if a great pretense had finally ended. The Vrolic High Chancellor, who had once declared humans genetically predisposed to servitude, approached Heather after the signing. "How did we not see this coming?" The crystalline being asked, genuine confusion in its vibrating tones. "You saw what you expected to see," Heather replied simply. "You thought we were simple because we appeared simple. You thought we were weak because we didn't fight back immediately. You never understood that humans can plan, can wait, can work together toward a distant goal." The Chancellor's crystal body shifted colors in what Dr. Kelly had identified years ago as a sign of deep thought. "Perhaps there is much about humans we failed to understand." "Yes," Heather agreed. "But now you'll have the chance to learn, as equals, not as masters and servants." As the day ended, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the Liberty, watching the stars. Humanity's position in the galaxy had changed forever. The laughter had stopped. The mockery was over. But the real work was just beginning. Creating a new relationship with species who had viewed humans as inferior for centuries would not be easy. There would be resistance, resentment, perhaps even attempts at revenge. Yet for the first time in 300 years, humans would face these challenges as equals, not as servants. They had finally shown the galaxy their true strength, not just in technology or tactics, but in patience, in cooperation, in the ability to work toward a distant goal without losing hope. The collective had laughed at humanity for centuries. They weren't laughing anymore. 10 years passed since Operation Trojan. The galaxy changed in ways few could have imagined before. The collective no longer existed. In its place stood the Galactic Confederation, with representatives from all species, including humans, on its governing council. The change did not come easily. Some alien species, particularly the Vrolic, tried to maintain their sense of superiority. They called Operation Trojan a lucky accident, and suggested humans had stolen technology they could not possibly understand. But such voices found little support among their peers. The evidence of human capability was too clear to deny. Admiral Natalie Chen now served as Earth's first galactic representative. Her office on the Central Station, renamed Unity Station, was simple but elegant, decorated with art from Earth and other worlds. She had become the face of humanity to the galaxy, respected and sometimes feared. We didn't do this to replace one form of domination with another, Chen told the First Confederation Assembly in a speech that was now studied in schools across many worlds. We did this to ensure no species ever suffers as we did. The future must be built on mutual respect, not mockery or exploitation. Dr. Heather Phillips led the newly formed Bureau of Interspecies Understanding. Her job was to build genuine cultural exchange where once there had been only ridicule. The first joint human-alien scientific ventures began under her guidance, revealing how much progress had been stunted by the artificial barriers between species. Not all humans welcomed the new arrangement. Some, like General Ryan Cooper of the Earth Defense Force, argued that aliens could never be trusted again. They planned to replace us on our own world, he reminded the Global Council during a heated debate in Geneva. We should return the favor. Eric Donovan, now an elder statesman and advisor to Admiral Chen, stood firm against such views. If we become what we fought against, then Operation Trojan was for nothing. We didn't fight to dominate, we fought to be equal. Most humans agreed with Eric. After centuries of mockery, the desire for revenge was natural. But most people recognized that building something better was more important than punishment. The most profound changes happened among young people of all species. Alien children, raised on stories of human inferiority, now attended schools with young humans. They learned together, played together, and grew up seeing each other as individuals, not just members of superior or inferior species. Human children, freed from the legacy of cosmic humiliation, approached the galaxy with confidence rather than resentment. They studied alien languages not because they had to, but because they wanted to understand different perspectives. On the 10th anniversary of Operation Trojan, a special ceremony took place on Unity Station. Representatives from 32 species gathered in the Great Hall that had once been the collective council chamber. The room had been redesigned, with seats arranged in a circle rather than the hierarchy of platforms the collective had used. Admiral Chen entered with her team, including Ben Wallace, once a janitor on a Vrolic mining colony, now Earth's Minister of Galactic Affairs. They took their places in the circle as equals among equals. Do you think they understand yet? Ben asked quietly, watching a Vrolic delegation enter with uncharacteristic humility. Chen considered the question carefully. Some do. The rest will learn. The mockery taught us patience, and patience taught us timing. We waited centuries for the right moment to show our strength. And now? Now we show them something they never showed us, Chen replied. Respect. Because the greatest human strength isn't our technology or our tactics, it's our capacity to build something better after we've been broken. The ceremony began with speeches from various representatives. A young Taraki spoke about the joint research project that had produced a cure for a disease affecting both humans and Taraki children. A Nebula described the new trade agreements that had brought prosperity to worlds once exploited by the collective. When it was Chen's turn to speak, she stood and looked around the circle of diverse beings. 10 years ago, we ended centuries of mockery with a show of strength, she began. Many expected us to use that strength for revenge. It would have been easy, perhaps even satisfying for a time. But humans have learned through our long history that cycles of domination and revenge lead nowhere good. She gestured to the circle of seats. Look at what we have built instead. Not perfect, not without disagreements, but founded on the principle that all intelligent beings deserve respect and a voice in their future. This is the true victory of Operation Trojan. Not the ships or the weapons or the surprise attack, but what we chose to do after we won. Later that evening, Chen stood with Eric Donovan on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Eric had aged considerably in the past 10 years. His hair now white, his movement slower. But his mind remained sharp, and his advice was still valued above all others. Did you ever imagine it would turn out this way? Chen asked him. Eric smiled slightly. I hoped. But honestly, I wasn't sure we'd survive the first day. The collective could have chosen to fight to the end. Why didn't they? I think deep down, they knew the system they built was wrong, Eric said after a moment of thought. Some of them, at least. They had convinced themselves that mockery and exploitation were natural, that superior beings should rule inferior ones. But when we showed, then we weren't inferior. That entire belief system collapsed. Chen nodded, watching a ship depart the station, a vessel of new design built by a joint team of human and Vrolic engineers. There's still so much work to do. There always will be, Eric agreed. But look how far we've come. No one laughs at humanity anymore. That's not entirely true, Chen said with a small smile. I heard some human children laughing with their Taraki friends yesterday. Not at each other, with each other. That's the difference. Eric looked pleased. Then, we've succeeded. True respect includes being able to laugh together, not just at one another. As the anniversary celebration continued throughout the station, humans and aliens mingled freely. There were still awkward moments, still misunderstandings, still occasional tensions. Building a new relationship after centuries of mockery and exploitation was not easy, but no one laughed at humanity anymore, at least not in the cruel way of the past. The species that had once been the jesters of the galaxy now stood as equals, respected for their strength, their patience, and their capacity for forgiveness. They had snapped, yes, but then they had rebuilt, creating something stronger and better than what came before. And that perhaps was the most human thing of all.